Call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the call to order, the roll call, if the clerk would read.
Commissioner Rippon?
Here.
Commissioner Cook?
Here.
Commissioner Archer?
Here.
Mayor de la Isla?
Here.
Councilmember Hiller?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clear?
Here.
Councilmember Ortiz? Councilmember Emerson?
Here.
Councilmember Padilla?
Present.
Councilmember Jensen? Councilmember Mays? Councilmember Cohen? And Councilmember Lesser.
Here.
Councilmember Jensen sends his regrets tonight. He is not able to attend. We now move on to the action items. Item A, if the clerk would read.
Approval of December 12th, 2018 JEDO Board meeting minutes.
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Lesser. Are there any comments or questions with regards to the minutes, amendments? Seeing none, we proceed with the vote by call.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Archer?
Aye.
Mayor de la Isla?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clear?
Yes.
Councilmember Emerson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser.
Yes.
All having voted yes, the motion passes. We now move on to item B.
Approval of engagement letter between the Joint Economic Development Organization and Summers, Spencer and Company for 2018 audit services.
Betty Greiner, I'm here for the JEDO Finance Committee. At your December meeting, you awarded the bid for the 2018 JEDO audit services to Summers, Spencer and Company. This is, I now bring you the engagement letter that will formalize that relationship, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions from the body?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Cook.
move for approval.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Cook, a second by Councilman Lesser. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we proceed with the voting. Yes for approval, and those in approval, could you say yes?
Yes.
Any in disapprove, dissent? Seeing none, the motion passes. This is, I'm not used to this without the button, so I have to develop the language for this one. We now move on to item C, if the clerk would read.
Approval of JEDO Finance Committee fourth quarter 2018 cash statement.
Ms. Greiner.
Yes, in your packets, you should have the cash statement for the year ending December 31, 2018. You will see in that we received $16,368,177 in sales tax receipts. We also received leverage lender interest in the amount of $20,571.95. That was for 2 quarters. That was on the tax credits. That amount was distributed to Go Topeka for scholarships. And then you will see a small amount of interest, $222. That is so small because the money comes into the account and then goes right back out. You will see that at the end of the year, we had a cash balance of $618,311. That is because the Shawnee County monthly sales tax had gone into the account on the last day of the year. The Topeka deposit had not been made until the first part of January, so it was sitting in there until we distributed it out. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions from the body? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Councilman,
Move approval.
Councilman Emerson moves for approval.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Lesser. Additional discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
We now move on to item D, if the clerk would read.
Approval of incentive agreement for Project Purple.
Molly?
Thank you. If I can get the clicker to move. Okay. Well, we'll just wing it without the slides. We all know that economic development kind of works to the beat of its own drum, sometimes moves very fast and sometimes moves very slow. This is neither one of those, but it is another curveball to throw at you all. So Project Purple, we plan to announce this evening, and there's a contract before you in the packet that talks about employment incentives and headcount increase of 220 new jobs. That company has since reviewed their expansion plans and would like to also add a capital investment to their project. So they are in due diligence period right now, trying to figure out exactly how much they plan to invest, and they'll come back to us with numbers and a breakout of real property versus personal property, and we'll have a proposal that adds on to their employment incentive for you. So instead of doing it piecemealed and doing one part tonight and another part another time, we'll just do it all in one fell swoop to be more efficient. So therefore, there's no action needed for Project Purple this evening, and we can move on to the next project. But I will stand for any questions if there's anything with regards to Project Purple.
Are there any questions for Ms. Howie? Seeing none, we move on to item E, if the clerk would read.
Approval of incentive agreement for Project Jingle.
Ms. Howie again.
Okay. So I will remind you, Project Jingle, we had before you in February of 2018 for funding approval. And that project is an addition of 6 new jobs with an average wage of $60,000 and a capital investment of $20 million. This is a 36,000 square foot building expansion and up to $196,000 in incentives, and that's broken out between $100,000 for capital expenditures and $36,000 for the employment incentive. Before you in the packet, you have the contract for approval, and we also have the company here to address you. And so I would stand for questions before I introduce the company to you all.
Any questions from the body? Seeing none, please have the
Well, I
company
would
come over.
happily invite representatives from Hill's Pet Nutrition to join you at the podium.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Gary Semjanow, and I've been a resident of Topeka for almost 26 years, and that whole time I've worked with Hill's Pet Nutrition. And I work at the facility north of town, and that's what we call it, the Hill's Pet Nutrition Center. And this investment will be at that location. My role at that facility is as the technical services director, and coming under that would be the roles of dealing with the campus, the facility itself. And that's why I'm here, because we have some exciting news. We're excited to announce that we're going to be expanding the animal care facility, and we're going to be adding a building that will be able to expand our ability to do nutritional research for animals, particularly for dogs in this case. It's going to be a $20 million expansion. We'll be adding some jobs, like you see, and it will be included in the scope of that building will be a visitor engagement center. We have a lot of business visitors who come through regularly, busloads of people coming in from all over the world, veterinarians mostly, and we give them tours. The facility right now is not really made for that. This will allow them to come in, have the appropriate type of facility that will allow for some good tours, but won't interact with the activities that are going. They'll be able to observe them, but not interfere. So it allows us a much better way of getting our daily work done, as well as having a nice showpiece. So we believe that this expansion will allow us to stay at the forefront of pet nutrition for a long time to come. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the body?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Cook.
Thank you. I appreciate that you are a Topeka and Shawnee County resident. I think that's very important that we have people from our local community that are very well versed in what our attributes may be. Under the agreement, there's a section that says the business will make every effort to employ Shawnee County vendors for construction of the facility, and also Shawnee County citizens for their employees. This is something that the business does endeavor to do.
Yes, absolutely. I'm heavily involved in the construction part of that project and working with the architects right now. We are in that process, and that has been a strong point of what we've been talking about from day one. We want to use local as much as possible for a lot of reasons. One of them is that we can get hold of them easily too. But also looking to employ people. We employ regionally, but very heavily in this area. These positions will be animal care research technicians, and we have quite a few of good candidates in this area.
I think it's just really important that we try and attract people here, or get people that are here for our employees, and I think that our incentives should be reinvested back into the community. And so that's very important. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion for approval by Deputy Mayor Clear, and we have a second by Councilmember Lesser. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, we proceed with the voting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes. At this point in time, we typically take a 5-minute recess because we do our typical take a picture and come right back into a meeting. So we will recess for 5 minutes while we do our picture, and we will be right back. Took me a second to get the language. So we need to contact Deb in the back. Councilwoman Hiller, do you mind letting Deb know that we're back in? You're good. All right. We are back into the meeting is back in session. We now move on to item F, if the clerk would read.
Approval of incentive request for Project Sherwood.
Ms. Stapleton.
Good evening. Oh, I turned it upside down. Good evening. Project Sherwood is an existing manufacturing distribution company looking to expand in our community. They'll be investing $17.7 million in plant and distribution center additions and improvement expenditures. Over the next 5 years, they'll also be adding 47 new jobs with an average wage of $40,000 annually plus benefits. We're proposing up to $206,800 in incentives, and all incentives are performance-based to be paid out as earned. With your approval of the funding this evening, the details of the agreement will be outlined via formal contract and presented for your approval at a future meeting. And you have a memo in your packet as well related to Project Sherwood. I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Ms. Stapleton? Seeing none, are the individuals for Project Sherwood here?
This is just an incentive funding approval.
Okay.
There's not an agreement yet, so we
Okay.
are still operating under that project name until we get that contract created.
Wonderful. We have a motion for approval by Councilman Lesser. We have a second by Commissioner Cook. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move on to item 4 in the agenda, which is presentations. To begin with item A, the... To be put in pause because our speaker is outside talking to the media. Actually, what we'll do is, we do have the zoo here. Do we have a motion to move up the zoo?
I'll make a motion to move the zoo up to presentation right now.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Rippon. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, brother.
Council members, mayor, commissioners, good evening. I am here tonight to offer an update on the Topeka Zoo and its interaction with the half-cent countywide retailer sales tax, and kind of just give you that status of where we are and what's to come. So, at a recent event, one of Gary Clark's kind of post-life ceremonies, someone came up to me and shared something that he had shared with them, and it was this Swahili proverb that simply said, "Don't let certain facts get in the way of certain truths." And it's been interesting as I've reflected on that. So, how much is $10 million worth? Well, a certain fact would imply that it's worth $10 million. But we'll see what the certain truth says about that. In 2012, I'm sure that Commissioner Archer, Councilmember Hiller, remember this quite well. There was a lot of loud noise about the Topeka Zoo, and specifically about a couple elephants that lived there. As a result, it was more of a political drive for us to develop a master plan. We had to answer a question, and that question was, is there a larger footprint available in our zoo for elephants? And so we developed this plan. We could answer the question, it was yes, but we never priced this master plan. And we didn't price it for one simple reason. Nobody wanted to be that scared. So we had this pretty picture. We had an engineer's estimate of $9.8 million that in 2012, that was the estimate for that elephant piece of this project. Now, this master plan has always been ambitious. It covers a time frame from anywhere from 20 to 40 to 50 years. There's that much opportunity in this plan for the zoo. But without funding, how good's the plan? So in 2014, when the half-cent countywide retailer sales tax came up for extension, we were very excited about the opportunity that posed our zoo. And so now with a plan, and now with funding that would come over a 15-year period, we're ready to go, right? Wrong. This little fire hydrant, that one right there, was the only fire hydrant in Gage Park. And that building that's in the background is a swimming pool and not the zoo. So we had to take a step back, and really to get an occupancy permit, we had to make sure that we had adequate fire protection. This map is very hard to read, but those circles indicate that through a City of Topeka capital improvement project with a value of just under $500,000, we were able to provide adequate fire protection through fire hydrants in about 38% of Gage Park. Covers all the zoo, animal land, the train depot, those places. So with this in place, then we actually could continue working on that very first master plan project that is Camp Cowabunga. And Camp Cowabunga opened August 31st last year. If you have not been out to see it, I'd be happy to provide a tour at any point in time. It had a total project budget of $4.5 million, uses the first $2.5 million of the $10 million that's been designated towards the zoo. And the remainder of that project budget is made up through private donations. We are blessed to be in an incredibly supportive and caring community. So with Camp Cowabunga in place, we thought, well, you know what? We've got our eyes set on that next project. And then we had a visit from some of our friends at the EPA, who were quick to point out that stormwater management had never been addressed in Gage Park. It's interesting, over the park's more than 100-year history, as projects were developed, they were developed in a way to be sensitive to our taxing base. And things like fire hydrants were overlooked, stormwater was overlooked. For there to ever be any future development in Gage Park, we had to address, or begin to address, the stormwater issue. And again, through the City of Topeka Capital Improvement Plan, we are currently working on a $1.8 million project that's going to address stormwater on the, I always say this wrong, on the east 80 acres of the park. There's multiple storm watersheds, and improve parking, and also complete another master plan element that is a group entry that will have a school bus turnaround kind of behind the Helen Hawker complex. So with stormwater being managed to the standard of the Clean Water Act, we are able to break ground. Well, we've technically broken ground, but you're going to see the heavy construction equipment in place beginning to work on Kay's Garden in about 3 weeks. It's amazing how this is starting to kind of come together and play out. Kay's Garden will be a world-class Japanese garden. About 5 to 7 years after it opens, we'll have it rated, and it should rate as one of the top 10 Japanese gardens in North America. As you may be aware, it's a $6.4 million project. The lead gift from Chief Justice Kay McFarland of $4.4 million. In additional, we are in the process of a private fundraising campaign for $1.25 million, and completing that project with an additional $750,000 from the $10 million of the half-cent sales tax. And I should probably also mention, although it's not factored into the numbers that you're about to see, the Chief Justice also left $1 million in a permanent endowment to support the operation of the project into perpetuity. This is truly a beautiful act of giving on her part. So if you look at the projects that we have from the time when the tax began being collected in 2017 through what is actively being worked on through 2020, that will consume $3.5 million of the $10 million sales tax. That helped us generate just over $7.5 million of private donations, and through the collaboration of the City of Topeka addressing those two infrastructure issues. By the time 2020 is over, we will use $3.5 million of the sales tax to generate $13.4 million worth of projects. And the impetus that that funding has offered has just been amazing. So what about the rest of that $10 million? In your handout, I'll let you work through this or answer any questions about it. You'll notice that some of the projects are blacked out. And the reason for that is simply this. As we are trying to match public money with private money, sometimes you have to let the private money steer the direction that you're going to go. You know, maybe this project comes before that one because we have someone that's interested to make that lead gift now. The other thing is, when you look back to 2012 and this tax finishes collecting in 2032, that's 20 years, and the world changes a bit. While this was originally an elephant-driven master plan, the reality that we're seeing is by the time we may be ready to do elephants, there may not be elephants to come here. That change is occurring in our world. So that's a little bit why, or at least an explanation as to why the actual projects are blacked out, because we also want to be able to have that surprise when we announce it. So back to this question, don't let certain facts get in the way of certain truths. We started out on a master plan with $10 million of designated sales tax funding, and the truth that we're already seeing is that $10 million is worth a lot more than $10 million. We're anticipating that that $10 million will generate $28 million worth of infrastructure improvements at our zoo. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Questions for Mr. Wiley? Commissioner Archer?
I remember those old days, Brendan, 2009, 2010.
Yes,
And the
sir.
biggest problem we had wasn't elephants, it was leadership. And when you came on board, you solved that problem for us, and I'd like to compliment you for that, sir.
Thank you,
here.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Beto.
Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for your report, Mr. Wiley. We now move on to item A, if the clerk would read.
Go Topeka quarterly report.
Ms. Howie.
Thank you again. So we're going to take turns like usual because we've got some more time on this agenda, so we're not going to be as brief as we were in December, but since there is a little bit of a lag and we're talking about quarter four, we will be hitting highlights for quarter four and talking a little bit about what we expect in the beginning of 2019. So some highlights here for new business attraction. At the end of quarter four, we had 31 total projects in the pipeline. 15 of those were new that came to us in 2018, and we hosted 11 site visits for new business prospects in 2018. Looking ahead at business attraction strategies for 2019, we have a new staff member that has joined Go Topeka. Her name is Rhiannon Friedman. She's what I call a boomerang. She is a Topeka native that has lived in Kansas City and most recently Dallas, and we are lucky to have her on our staff to be the manager of business development. So she will kind of work both sides of the ball and work existing business projects and help with new business attraction. To kick off the year in 2019, we started with a board of directors retreat that a lot of you were there for, which was a great, engaging, full day of very robust conversation. It wasn't what some people would think of as a typical retreat. I think we really talked about some bold ideas and got to the heart of some issues that needed to be talked about. But what we came up with is that we need to do a second retreat very soon. So we have scheduled the second retreat for April 5th. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Another thing that we focused on during that retreat, two things, were a review of our incentive guidelines and reviewing our target industries. And Freddie Malgin on our staff provided the retreat goers with a very in-depth presentation about workforce, industry gaps, industry trends, and he would have came and given an abbreviated report this evening, but he welcomed a new baby girl into his family last week, so he's on paternity leave. So we'll do that at another meeting. But for those of the attendees at the retreat that don't like to get down into the weeds and the numbers, that may have been a difficult time for them for that hour and a half where we dug into that data. Another strategy that we have, and we've done this in the past, is familiarization tours for site selectors and corporate real estate brokers that are working with companies to get them into the community and provide them a fresh perspective of what Topeka and Shawnee County has to offer. We've done that in the past and plan to do it again this year. And it's funny, I got an RFP on Tuesday, and it was a site selector from the Dallas area who only requested to receive information from Topeka and Wichita, and he told our Department of Commerce counterparts that he would always remember Topeka because he came and raced a car on the drag strip at Heartland Park and got to spend a couple days and toured our capital. So it may seem a little cheesy to have things like that, but it's great for site selectors and brokers to have good memories of Topeka and Shawnee County. And then a new kind of strategy that goes along with the innovation focus that we have with the hiring of Katrin Holthouse is collaborating on crossover projects. So there will be a lot of projects that come in that are smaller in nature or that fit in with the animal health corridor and ag tech and bioscience that Katrin and I will collaborate on and look for new ideas to attract those companies, because a lot of times those companies have a different angle or a different perspective on economic development, and it may not be within our current set of guidelines to attract them and provide incentives that meet their needs. I'm also covering business retention and expansion. As you know, Jackie Steele was on our staff in 2018, and we're transitioning to a newer structure for business retention and expansion. But within 2018, we did bring before you Project Jingle and Project Purple for funding approval. And that staff transition let us realize that the way we're going about business retention and expansion can be tweaked a little bit to be more efficient. A lot of our staff are out there meeting with companies frequently. And if we do a little bit of training with the staff that are already on the books and on the calendars for those CEOs and leaders in our existing companies, then we can gather the data that you would gather in a BRE call. So we're going to do a BRE training for all of GoTopeka staff so that everybody knows what to look for, what to ask in meeting with existing companies to look for red flags and opportunities for growth. Looking ahead in 2019, we also plan an aggressive visitation program. We have 100+ face-to-face existing business calls in our plans for 2019. We also plan to visit headquarters of 2 or 3 of our major companies to talk with them about opportunities for expansions and see if there are any issues that we need to be diving into with them. And then a greater collaboration with talent initiatives. So one example that we've been working on just recently with some of you all and some of our private sector leaders speaks to what Commissioner Cook was mentioning earlier about hiring and really encouraging companies to hire local when they're recruiting from other locations, to encourage them to be residents of Topeka and Shawnee County. And that really speaks to the crossover of workforce and business retention and expansion. And with that, I'll pass it over to Glenda unless you all have any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Howie? Seeing none?
Okay,
Thank you very much. Ms. Washington?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So, for the past 3 years, we've been following the Small Business Incentive Program. And what we wanted to do was make sure that we were using our money efficiently and that we were impacting the community. So I want to share with you sort of what we did for the past 3 years and how it's impacted our community. So, for the past 3 years, there you go. Can you see? We've looked at, I had Freddie put together the numbers to look at how we have made an impact on the money that we were entrusted with. So we looked at how we could measure the return on investment. And what you see before you is a sort of our numbers chart. We have issued 177 incentives totaling about $820,000. And that, to us, is definitely an economic impact on our small business community. The return on investments are at the bottom. In 2016, was 59%, in 2017, 59%, in 2018, 51%. We were really, really pleased with these numbers because we saw so many new businesses come in and start their businesses as a result. They wanted to make sure that this was a real program. They wanted to make sure that this program could help them fulfill their dream. And so we have so many businesses across the community that they do not start unless they come to us because this program is assisting them. Just sort of to give you an overview of full-time jobs and part-time jobs that we've impacted with this program. Full-time jobs, 402 full-time jobs and 379 part-time jobs. Those are the ones that we don't think about, the small business and micro business jobs that we create through this program. And so we're very, very, very pleased with this report. Okay. And also, our loan program has been growing as well. So the loan program is a word of mouth program because really we haven't put the investment in it as far as cash is concerned until we're settled to where we need to be. We have the innovation program coming online, and we want to make sure that we don't go and ask for the same company for donations and contributions. So what we've done was we put together the loan program in 2013, and it did okay for a couple of years, and then it went down again. But last year, we saw growth in this program, and we continue to receive requests from individuals wanting to take part of this microloan program. We want to do something bigger than just this. We want to provide them with more opportunity to get the non-traditional lending. And so what we're doing is we're moving forward with this program. We may have some surprises in the future, of what we're going to do with this particular program. And then finally, looking ahead, we are working on the Empowerment Incubator. That incubator is, we're doing a survey of the residents in the community, in the Housing Authority community, to determine what it is that they need. And so that survey will take place next month. The Kitchen Incubator, we are also doing a focus group there, and that will take place next month as well. And so those two groups, those will be two new programs that we bring online this year. I know for a fact that they will make a tremendous impact. The Kitchen Incubator, people have been calling me about that already. They are interested in getting it out there. So I sat down and talked, I talked with an entrepreneur yesterday, and he was beyond himself. He said, really, if we bring this online, do you realize what we could do in this community? Do you realize what we could do with restaurants and food trucks? And he just went on. And I said, calm down, wait a minute. We really got to, make sure we do it and do it right, because if we put it out there and it's not right, we do damage to ourselves. So this means that we're going to have a focus group of people in the industry to find out what it is that they really want in this incubator, what it is that we can bring to the table, and how we can help them grow once they're in there. We don't want to put them in there and provide an incubator or a commissary and they not grow, or it does damage to them. So we're going to have training as well as opportunity. We're going to look at, how can we help them get contracts? So it's bigger than just open up the doors and let them do whatever. We're looking at how we can make a difference. And so the boot camp training, that's continuous. We're going to continue to do outreach to the community, because what we've seen in the past is that we've done the training programs and we've done some other programs, but we have not done true community outreach. And so we're looking at, what we can do with, we're a certified development financial institution, and what we could do with our CDFI designation, how we can look at it a little bit closer, and how we can make a difference in investments, opportunity, growth in the community. Thank you so much. And then also the PTAC is growing. PTAC is growing in leaps and bounds. They had 78 new clients last year. They have a value of, the contracts that they put on the table have a value of $12 million for our community. That's just our community. Statewide, they have a value of $24 million. Now, we're doing half the work, it looks like to me. Right, Commissioner Art? So for every $1 JEDO invests in this program, PTAC generates $347. So that's my report. I stand for questions.
Questions for Ms. Washington?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Cook.
can we talk a minute about our incentives and our loan funds for 2018? Did we expend all of our funds? Do we have funds that carried over? Do we have more?
For the incentive?
Yes, for the incentive.
No, we did not. We had $350,000, and we didn't use it all. We had people in the pipeline, but they didn't bring all their information, so it kind of spilled over.
So out of the 350, we awarded out 300,000.
Yes.
So, and then that was mainly because of timing. We had people that were still in the pipeline.
Exactly. We average about 25, 30 people in the pipeline every month, and we issue, a ton of opportunities for these companies.
And then on the first opportunity fund, did we expend all the funds that we had available, or do we have funds that were left over and carried over?
That's not a carryover program.
Okay.
That's not a JEDO program. So we do have funds left over, but we're going to anxiously look at opportunity to get more funds. But we have about $600,000 left in that program.
And that's very good to know that we're using the majority, if not almost all, of the funds that we have available, so it's going to good use.
Yeah, we push it real hard, trying to get it out to the people, so.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Additional questions for Ms. Washington? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide an update. The fourth quarter of 2018 really has been focused on driving the strategy for the entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem. In my last report, I told you about the formation of an innovation advisory board that has now been working with me for the last 4 months. And that advisory board has now formed 4 different task forces just to get more traction and to move a little bit faster. So our task forces are ecosystems best practices, looking at best practices that or experiences that other communities have made and best practices that they have developed, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here in Topeka. We looked at Chattanooga. Many of you have been on the trip with us. Lincoln, Nebraska, Silicon Valley, and others. The second focus area is space. We are a home of innovation, and that requires quite some planning and intentionality about it. Innovation fund and incentives. And the fourth one is organizational structure. I call it building the innovation powerhouse because we have a lot of assets and resources available that I want to make sure that we align within the Momentum 2022 strategy and also within the organizations that GTP has. These focus areas fit into a larger strategic framework, and I want to share that draft of a strategic framework with you tonight. And I have to emphasize, it's a draft. Like with any strategy, there's tweaks that we're making along the way. And this has been drafted with input from the Innovation Advisory Board, but also with input from volunteers and from community stakeholders. So the vision and mission is to create this high-performance, innovation-based entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it also lists the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are who? The entrepreneur, whose interest it is to have a successful startup. Businesses, existing businesses that would like to scale, grow, and have an innovative business model. The Topeka and Shawnee County community that's looking for opportunities and for a good quality of life, good quality of work. Government on a local, on a regional, on a state and federal level. Investment dollars, jobs created, and of course investors. We said that we do want to single out investors as one of the stakeholders because there's money for investment available in Topeka, and if we can provide the right investment opportunities for those investors and that produce ROI, it's a win-win for everybody in the community. What must we do to satisfy those stakeholders? And you see in those yellow, orange boxes, they may look familiar to you. Most of the task forces are built around those. So best practices, space, funds, and also support of people. So that is where we also have crossover projects, as Molly has referred to earlier, with other areas of GTP. To enable these processes, we need this structural support, and that is done by aligning with Momentum 2022 and GTP. We need to empower volunteers, and we need to consistently communicate with stakeholders. So that's the map that we're following, and each of our sessions that we have drills down deeper into the details for each of these initiatives. I'd also like to give you an update on 712 Innovations. 712 Innovations is our, as you know, is our co-working space and incubator, which is currently the anchor of all of much of the entrepreneurial activity in Topeka and Shawnee County. We went through an extensive RFP process to find an appropriate buyer for the makerspace, and we're happy to report that a brand-new enterprise was formed. The makerspace was spun off, and we now have the Arts and Craftsman Workshop just a few blocks away from 712 Innovations that provides the fabrication resources and space to create prototypes for that any startup needs, or many startups need. So 712 has gained additional office space, co-working space that will drive our enhanced business incubator for 2019 and additional networking opportunities. So stay tuned, there's more to come next quarter.
Any questions for Ms. Holthouse? Seeing none, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Ms. Levon?
So Forge was a great year for 2018 with Forge. We had 74 events. That was roughly 6 a month, everything from book clubs to pub clubs, VIP tours to cooking classes, and everything in between. Really trying to broaden not only our location, but what we offer to range within our young professionals. We finally crossed over the 2,000 member mark, which is really exciting for us. And I think probably my very favorite stat is that we had 222 volunteers. That's up from 60 in 2017. So proving that our YPs are engaged and invested in our community. Looking ahead, 2019, we will continue to grow awareness and engagement to help make Topeka a place where all young talent want to live, work, play, stay, and lead. We'll do this through increasing our social media presence. We're really vamping that up and meeting our members where they're at. Their social, we want to play off their FOMO, their fear of missing out, letting them know that all these cool things are happening right in their hometown. The partnership has now housed the GTYPC, the Greater Topeka Youth Partnership Commission. Forge will act as the point of contact for them. We will have, kind of take them under our wing. We're super parallel in all the things that we're trying to do. The GTYPC is a countywide youth commission, which will engage, advocate for, and keep youth in the Topeka and Shawnee County area. So our mission statements with Forge kind of align perfectly with that. We have also teamed up with Washburn and their Leadership 400 program. They have sent out a survey to Washburn students to try and see how we can better connect Washburn students within the Topeka County and more specifically downtown. So we will come up with a curriculum for Sydney to work with me and how we can better connect Washburn students. And lastly, our Top City Internship Program. This year will be our 3rd year for that. We will be partnering within the community in order to help us create lasting positive impressions on these young professionals. That's it. I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Ms. Levon? Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. You talked about the GTYPC.
Yes.
Okay, at the city level, we understand there is what is sometimes called the Mayor's Youth Commission, but apparently isn't really the Mayor's Youth Commission. So are those all the same thing? Are they parallel?
So they're the same thing. The Mayor's Youth will kind of be a leg of it, a portion of it, but it is the GTYPC.
Could you just describe how they'll function and how often, just a little bit, so we understand, and if there's an offshoot, how that works?
They're still in the planning process, so we are creating a brand book for them and kind of getting the guidelines and helping them create the guidelines on how often they're meeting, what they're going to do, and kind of kicking them off. We've got a press conference on February 18th, so we'll have a big layout there where it's all laid out.
So if I could add, the way that it all works is not all of the members of the youth council wanted to be pro-term council members with us. And we wanted to provide an opportunity for individuals that were maybe not interested in the policy-making aspect of being a youth leader, another outlet in which they could be connected with the whole community, to be on different boards and to serve in different leadership activities. So every single individual who is interested in being part of the youth council will work directly to apply and work under the Greater Topeka Partnership. However, those individuals who are interested in participating as being part of the youth council will then go through an interview process that the students have put together, and then they will be selected by district to participate with each of their council members. So it's not just the council that we all envisioned and dreamed about, it's also bigger because we're having young people engaged at every level of our city.
I think I'll still stay tuned. I know I'm in the middle of recruiting mine, but I told her what I was getting her to sign up for, obviously. Thank you.
Additional questions for Ms. Lamont? Seeing none, thank you very much. Ms. Stapleton?
Good evening again. I want to give you an update briefly on workforce and education, and one of the big things that you all as JEDO have helped to support is both our SODO Transportation Ride to Work Initiative as well as our NEDO Ride to Work Initiative. So I've given you kind of some numbers that you can get a snapshot of how successful not only NEDO has been since we began it, but looking kind of at SODO from January of 2018 to January of 2019. NEDO in December, 15 days, 50 rides compared to SODO's in its first 15 days, 101 rides. And I've gotten new reports just as of today. NEDO's first full month, when we looked, because we were looking at January snapshot through mid part of the year, NEDO started off very strong with 549 rides in January, comparing favorably to the 410 rides that SODO had for the entire month of January in 2018. As expected, many of those NEDO rides are taken outside that regular fixed route service hours, and shift workers are getting to and from work whenever their shifts run. SODO's doing about 30 trips a day now, and the Topeka Metro also will be attending job fairs this spring to further promote both of the transportation pilot options. Overall, SODO for the entire year of 2018 provided 9,461 rides. And one of the other programs that we've done over consecutive years, and we're over 300 now, but 93 CARE bus passes for the Topeka Rescue Mission's CARE Career Readiness Program were provided in 2018. So we continue to find means and ways to make sure that transportation is not a barrier for the individuals within our community to get to work. The other update that I have for you, and it's kind of an amazing snapshot when I really put the numbers together, included had a full year of programming, our Diversity Business Council. In May, we aligned with a meeting with the YWCA's Network Lunch to hear the panel discussion, Standing Against Racism, Becoming a More Inclusive Community. The following month, we hosted a supplier diversity panel where attendees learned more about procurement opportunities as it relates to supplier diversity in the community. We heard from our own Mayor, Michelle De La Isla, Amanda Kiefer, who's the Director of Human Resources and Inclusion with FHL Bank, Topeka, Lizone Graves, who is President and CEO of IBSA Incorporated, and Go Topeka's own Glenda Washington, our SVP of Entrepreneurial Minority Business Development. They offered exceptional tools and understanding related to supplier diversity and how it can impact any business at any level of their organization. In September, we heard from Washburn University's new dean at that time, the law school, Dean Carla Pratt. She's a noted expert on legal education equity and most recently had served as the Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion at Penn State's Dickinson School of Law. And then the next month, we heard from Cecily B., who you see in our image here on the screen. She talked about her understanding and presented on intentions versus impacts in diversity and inclusion experts. And then we heard from Michael Gonzalez in December, who worked with us on building critical relations and business collaboration and employee relations and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had a packed year. When I started looking through all that, I wanted you to be able to see and hear kind of what we went through the whole year, and we're already off to a successful start in 2019. We hosted the listening sessions last month, and we have a current survey that's out to ensure that as the community's Business Diversity Council, Included will continue to seek to lead, educate, and partner with businesses to create equitable, diverse, and inclusive workforce cultures, promoting economic and inclusive prosperity. It's been a busy 2018, and it will be a wonderful 2019 as well. that's just a snapshot of some of the things that we're doing in workforce. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Stapleton? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Pavlik?
Good evening. More and more, we are hearing about how important talent is to the success in business and in communities, and attracting, retaining, and developing that talent. The good news is that we've made this a priority locally as well, and tonight, talent development begins with education, cradle through career. Our major accomplishments in 2018 include the creation of Together Topeka, engaging community stakeholders to develop and define the scope of that work, which includes the priorities of kindergarten readiness, third grade reading proficiency, middle school math proficiency, high school graduation rates, and expanding continuing education options for youth and adults. And finally, we ended the year introducing a pledge of support to help establish a network of individuals and organizations in our community who will support this work. Underlying those goals, we have included some social emotional wellness components that you'll hear more about when we host a Design Institute coming up in March. Are there any questions?
Questions for Ms. Pavlik? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that this culminates with the report, the quarterly report of Go Topeka. At this point in time, we move on to item B, if the clerk would read.
B, Go Topeka Board of Directors Retreat.
Ms. Howie?
So I am filling in for our 2019 Chair Kurt Kuda. He was not able to make it this evening. So I already touched on a little bit of what I want to cover with regards to our Board of Directors retreat, but I'll dive in a little bit deeper. So we had 39 total attendees for the retreat, a great turnout. You see this image on the screen. We talked about it in prior meetings, and the economic development three-legged stool. That's sort of how we started the retreat, is talking about best practices that we're seeing across the nation. So this first retreat really focused on that orange circle, business development, retention, expansion, recruitment, and startup. So with that, we took a look at our mission and vision statement and got a lot of feedback from the attendees on some tweaks and refinement. So the plan is for staff to draft a recommended revised mission and vision statement and bring that to the executive committee of the board of directors for feedback. And then our target industries and incentive guidelines are continuing conversations as we continue to dive into the strategies with regards to economic development in Shawnee County. Those two other circles, the green and the blue, are very closely related. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but the comments about placemaking, the whole point of placemaking being a part of economic development is to support talent and businesses. So it's hard to talk about talent development without talking about placemaking and vice versa. So the second retreat's focus will be on talent and place, and that will happen on April 5th. And I want to make sure that you all know that you are all invited to attend those meetings and that retreat. So if you can make it even for part of the time, it would be great to have you all there and be engaged in those conversations. That's all I have for the retreat, so I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Howie? Councilwoman Hiller?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question, but I do have a comment for everyone. I thought I was there, and I thought that the retreat went really well. I also think I've been involved in this now, in this seat for 10 years, and that retreat was only the second time that there'd been an invitation to the elected officials to join the Go Topeka board in a process of either planning or just growing with speakers and some engagement. If we were someplace else, we as the JEDO board would be doing the retreat and figuring out what our goals were and what we wanted to hire Go Topeka to do. And here we've chosen to kind of combine those things, and we're having our contractor do a lot of that work for us. I think you've done a good job with it, and I just want to encourage everybody to participate in April if they can, because that joint time with us, with the board and the staff is really valuable for what we're all here for.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation. We now move on to item C. If the clerk would read.
Quality of place update.
I'm not Kurt, sorry. I'm a little shorter. Kathy Clark, and I took Kurt's place as the chair of the Quality of Place work group this year, since he moved on to be the president of Go Topeka, so he felt like he couldn't do both. So they twisted my arm. So anyway, I wanted to give you a brief overview of the allocations that were made at the December meeting to our 4 groups that made presentations and won awards. Kurt and Go Topeka staff has met with each one of the groups that is receiving funds to talk about their project and see where they were in the process and what we needed to do to get things moving. Each project, of course, is at a different stage, but they are all moving forward. Each project is currently working with vendors to get the hard dollar bids that they need to actually come back to Go Topeka and say, we are ready to move forward and this is exactly how much we need, and here are the bids from our contractors. And we plan to, Kurt will, from Go Topeka, will be keeping you all informed as we move forward on this project.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now move on to item D, if the clerk would read.
East Topeka Learning Center project update.
Good evening. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Yes. It's been such a long time. I will give you a very brief update. You have an update in your packet for Washburn Tech East. We have a general project. The project is back on track, moving forward. Construction is back up and running. The site has gas and heat, and they are impressively moving forward both inside and outside. I have asked Associate Dean Tatro to share an update from the temporary Washburn Tech East campus and the first month of classes. So if Dr. Tatro is available, I'll defer to him.
Good evening.
Welcome.
We are excited that we are open. We are open at the Antioch Family Life Center. We opened to 87 students on January 7th. If we think there's a need, there is. We are currently up to 94 different students. We have additional enrollments every 8 weeks. We've got additional orientation scheduled for both March and April, and we're excited to be ready to get into the new building. But what we figured out is that the opportunity to be at the Antioch Center has really allowed us to do some programming first and not have to worry about all the move-in and the readiness pieces there. So we think by the time we get into the new building, we'll actually have an idea of what we're doing and an idea of how to do it. So we're excited for the new Washburn Tech East, but truly excited for the opportunity that we've had to get started with programming on the east side of Topeka. With that, I would stand for questions as well.
Any questions for Dr. Tatro? Yes, Commissioner Archer.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
How do we get from 94 to 400 students?
So
What's the plan?
Right. So I think what you're going to see is over the course of the year, you're going to have 400 students. We're probably looking at about between 95 and 115 students at any one time. So I think over the course of the year, we'll touch 400 different individuals, roughly 100 students at a time.
So we're never going to have 400 at any given time, which I
truly
understood
doubt
that to be the goal.
Yeah, I would doubt that we would have 400 at the facility at one time, but I think we'll have an annual enrollment of 400 different students.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cook.
But also 87 to start, 94 current. I mean, without even having a building. That's relative. I mean, that's a pretty good start.
It's huge.
that meeting a quarter of the 400 without even having a building.
Exactly.
So I think that's a good start for us.
Yeah, we're excited.
Councilwoman Hiller.
If I could draw you out for a moment for everybody's benefit, and with the unexpected change in plans and the temporary space at Antioch, there was some concern at first on your part as well as anybody else's that maybe you simply wouldn't be able to offer some of the classes and you'd have to offer a limited schedule. Could you talk about what actually happened?
Sure, we have the entire program up and running at the Antioch Family Life Center. So we are offering GED, General Education Diploma, ESL, English as a Second Language, commercial truck driving, carpentry, and also health occupations, health careers. So we have the full slate up and running right now.
Wow.
Thank you.
Significant thanks to Pastor Hicks for sharing his location with us so that we could make this dream of the community a reality while we work through all the other kinks.
Very much so.
Additional, yes.
Pastor Hicks did report that as an unexpected side benefit, he got his gym cleaned out. Right?
It's worked out well for everybody, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now move on to a presentation, item E, if the clerk would read.
Kansas Expo Center update.
And as they're coming up, I just wanted to, reiterate for the body, one of the statements that we got this year was, as we were talking about the agendas, is that we always talk about Go Topeka and the receipt of the $5 million, when there is much more than just Go Topeka receiving funds from the half-cent countywide sales tax. So it's just, every meeting we'll have two of the organizations just pop up and give us a little bit of a report. That way we constantly have information for our constituents with regards to what's happening with those dollars.
What's that?
On the bottom of space. Yeah. Click your arrow there. There you go.
You do not?
We're having some technical difficulties.
Brendan's coming up to rescue me out of the work.
Did they already have it?
They should.
Should have it.
Is it a PowerPoint?
No.
Would it look like this?
There you go.
Thank you, Brendan.
Sure.
All right, sorry about that. Yay. So Chuck Smith, HTK Architects, I'm happy to be here tonight to talk a little bit about the Expo Center, give you a brief update. It's been, as you know, a long time, project that's been conceived for a long time, and a project that has taken its time to get to where we are today, and all due diligence necessary to be sure that we're spending taxpayers' dollars and investing in this facility in the most meaningful and cost-effective way with the best return on its investment. So as you can see above, there's an image of what the facility's planned to look like as you approach it when it comes to fruition. Quite a substantial change, and I'll get into some of the things that we've got into, but this image here represents one of the kind of key things that came out of some research, master planning, and market study stuff that when we're all done, the facility has to measurably look much better than it did from the street. It also needs to resolve a number of issues with ADA accessibility and approachability of the building, and it needs to solve a lot of problems that it had with its exterior skin and that type of stuff. So all of those kind of things gave us an opportunity while we were doing that to actually freshen up the building and give it a new look and bring it into the kind of the 21st century, if you will, of what a modern venue is expected to look like and provide some of the opportunities it does. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but as you know, the timeline's been a long time. There was a study early about how much this project might be needed and what might be needed of it. As we heard earlier this evening, there's a sales tax initiative that helps support a significant portion of the budget of this project. And in 2017, HTK came online to really study and find a solution that would best expend the dollars available for the best return on our investment, and challenged with a lot more need and a lot more programmatic needs as well as deferred maintenance needs with the facility than the immediate budget presented itself to do. So how do we do that? It was the very first question, and how do we do that effectively and with the best ideas? But really came down to kind of three really solid things. One was how do we provide a facility, a modern facility that resolves its deficiencies, or if you will, deferred maintenance issues the best we can? How do we provide a facility that's modern and provides the best opportunity for the facility to generate increased revenue, which then is obviously used to offset the operational deficit that's subsidized by taxpayers to operate and run the facility? And number three, how do we provide a facility that does a much better job than it had been doing of providing content for Shawnee County and the city of Topeka citizens, and improving, really, if you will, the quality of place and the quality of opportunities here. So a number of things happened as part of that process. But number one thing we really got into was right off the bat was how do we do that, and are there people out there that can help us understand what it is that these facilities do in the modern era and what we should be considering for the best return on our investments. We took the opportunity to really look at this facility in three different kind of characteristics. What's its deferred maintenance needs? What is its emphasis on equine? It's how is it there? What's it doing there? What's its successes are? Where does it? What do we need to do to support what's happening there, or can we support it better, or at least improve on what it can be done there? And then the arena and exhibition hall. What are its deficiencies? Why is it performing like it can, and should it perform better? And how can we help this facility through a design solution perform better with, again, those end goals of reducing deficit, increasing revenues, and a better sense of place in terms of content. So what that led us into is really a kind of a balanced solution. Now, when I say balanced, it's not that all three of the trays are exactly filled the same way, but the notion that everybody, these kind of three major components get touched in some way to improve their operational and their return on investment in the best way they can. So what we learned in it was that Land and Arena and the Exposition Center had the most opportunity to gain from an investment in it and from the dollars investment in it. It could perform better than it was, it could provide better content it did, and it could potentially provide much, much more content than it can right now if it just had the right investments in the right places in terms of space, modernized infrastructure, modernized facility, modern food and beverage offerings, and ADA accessibility, and a number of things. And so a significant number of options led into where we are today on that facility. So an expansion to Exhibition Hall to the north will fill that space that's a void right now between Exhibition Hall and the link that goes to Maynard from the hotel. That space will be very characteristic of the same kind of volumetric space that's currently in the Exhibition Hall, with the exception that the east side of it, as well as in the renovation of the east side of Exhibition Hall, will have support spaces, restrooms, and improve, again, food and beverage offerings for two reasons. One, improvement, but the other is for the scale of the facility to get those, to equate that. Land and Arena is going to get a significant number of upgrades to it. Right for number one on the list was somebody please do something about this seating. So we're going to do something about the seating right off the bat. The other, again, what is expected in modern venues is both at the patron level or the customer level, but it's also what are the promoters looking for? What are those people that come out and do events here? What are they looking for in modern venues out here? And so there was a lot of work that needed to be done in this venue, everywhere from, again, replacing seats, sound systems, lighting systems, food and beverage offerings, accessibility, ADA accessibility, and the gamut goes on. So we have done everything we can possibly do to find options to drive the best investment into Land and Arena for it to improve its return on investment. And with some of those ideas that we're putting out there, Kellen has been obviously promoting years ahead of where we are actually today, and been able to start to promote, I think, based on thinking. He's going to talk a little bit about what some of the successes currently already are. And then the third thing we learned that we do equine pretty darn well here, and we do livestock, and we do animal shows pretty darn well here. So we need to invest in that program as well, and make sure that as we're investing in it, that it's appropriate for what they're doing out there, and make sure that that they can be enhanced and provide again those modern amenities and offerings and types of spaces and quality of food and beverage and types of things like that are expected in a renovation. So the renovation of the barn was like, number one, its existing barn, domer, riding arena. Those were at the top of the list. We have to renovate those. We have to provide better support for stall rentals. We have to provide better heating in this space. We need to enclose the warm-up arena so we have all-weather usability and programmability of that space. And then we need to consider can we provide additional arena space at that site as well, and what it would look like if we had that on there and what it would look like if we did not. And so we've been through all those iterations. And then the other one was, has anybody been in the parking lot? We need to find a way to figure out what we're going to do with that parking lot. In some way or fashion, find some money. While parking lots might not necessarily be a number one driver in revenues, at the same time, there's a lot of things that happen on parking lots at the Expo Center, and there's also a lot of contracts that Kellen has with, or partnerships that Kellen has with other folks here in the community that use that space that need that to be at a certain level of quality. So again, it needs to be addressed. Many of these things, like the parking lot, it's original parking lot since 1984. It's been maintained to its best of its ability, but it needs to have some TLC. So where we've kind of been, besides for planning all this, we're about on the cusp of putting out a little over 40 bid packages that have the base nuts and bolts that we need to do, and then a number of options, because again, the list of what we need to do was this long. The prioritization that got us into the budget is this long, and so there's this zone of space above and below that red line that we're estimating, designing and estimating to try to find the best parts and pieces to put into the facility at the end of the day. So it's been a very laborious effort. It's been a very, I think, deliberate effort, and I think that we're finding our way to the point where we're going to put some real numbers on the table and be able to make some final decisions and get this thing rolling. With that in mind, not that there hasn't been anything happening at the Expo Center or at the site, and knowing that a number of things are going to happen there, and knowing a number of things need to be corrected, and some of the deferred maintenance things that were catching up with us faster than we could get to the project. We have replaced the air conditioning systems in existing Expo Hall. There were 3 units on the roof, down to 1 going into a major event last August. We needed to ramp that up, get them on, so that is done, complete. The boiler system was on its last leg in the facility. It supports the entire campus, and so we needed to find our way into that and get that done before winter hit. And actually, we started failing that right about the time we were making ice for the first time in the fall and needing to melt down ice. If you know how that process goes, you freeze it and then you melt it and then you freeze it and take it in and out. So we had to ramp up boilers and replace boilers. That work has been done. So about $1.7 million worth of construction has actually already occurred at the campus and has been completed and on its way, and all of it necessary to support what we're doing here. So a number of that HVAC work put us in a position for our chillers to be able to support the expansion of the Expo Hall and the front new lobby space to the building. And the boilers were right size for the facility, not only its current stage, but in its other stage, so now they can ramp up. A number of boilers can ramp up when they're needed on demand versus one giant boiler running that's over 30 years old inefficiently. So just some snippets of what some of the inside of the arena might look like, some of the things we learned that are great investments and items that Kellen and his group can use to increase sales, increase sponsorship opportunities, which increase revenues in the facility, are premium seating type of options. So in-zone bars, low seating types of things. So this is a snapshot of what this might look like. Well, is planned to look like on the southeast end of the arena. And then on the top kind of corner there is how that would look if you were looking back towards it, and all those seats from the bar down are low seating. So a premium but not a suite type of seat setup. There will also be a number of suites that will be our plan for the facility. One is actually already in place and running through sponsorship opportunities. We're going to add 3 more to the facility, again, for revenue generation and long-term sponsorship as well as short-term. Some snippets of what food and beverage might look like, increasing branding, increasing opportunities. We're going to be able to make food and offer different types of qualities, levels of food in the facility. There'll be a kitchen in the lower level that supports the loge and suites as well as these facilities up here. There'll be a better offering for beverages and that type of stuff. Again, what a patron's looking for when they go, and the total experience, not just the event in the space, but it's a total experience about what that place has to offer for them. So some snippets. I've also brought Todd Ramsey with McCown Gordon back to that kind of schedule a little bit. In the fall of 2018, McCown Gordon Construction was brought on board as construction manager. So we're at that point where we're starting to really need to refine what these elements were, what these bid packages would be, what was feasible and what wasn't feasible. And so we were able to bring these guys online to start really looking at our design documents as we were wrapping them up and help us make good decisions, do some, if you will, value engineering, make sure we're doing the most cost-effective systems and to provide what we need to provide for it. This is a schedule that's in your document is a rolled up. It's actually about as long as I am tall with lots of stuff in it. This is rolled up, and here at the end, I'm going to have Todd come up and talk a little bit about a kind of short snapshot in it, in the schedule itself. And then I'd like to wrap up with Kellen to spend a little bit of time about what he's learned as he's been at the Expo Center and how that's influenced how this kind of final designs went together about what he could do better, what they saw they could do better here, and what they are doing better at the Expo Center in terms of an event management group. Todd?
Good evening, Todd Ramsey, McCown Gordon Construction. What you're looking at right here, this is a very condensed overall schedule of the project. We've very intently have been working with Kellen and his operations team over the last couple months to really talk about, know what's going on, events, operations, how things operate. And we've really have making sure we're working around events. He's not missing events, still collecting that revenue. So really, we've really got this into an overall duration project of 2 years. And these are just some target completion dates that we've kind of put at right now that we've kind of, you see in the blue, those are kind of the six areas that we'll be working in different buildings, additions, renovations that you can see. So yeah, I'm not going to go through every day, but you can see right there, those are some target completion dates that we're looking at getting started construction here this May, so very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I would add to that, when I talked about the schedule that's about as long as I am high, that they've done an excellent job of working through the schedule. So in this 24-month schedule is continuous operation of the facility. They've done everything they possibly can to make sure that Kellen doesn't miss a beat, that his revenues don't falter, that he can meet his obligations to make this facility hum and generate revenues while this thing's in construction. So, they've done an excellent job of really finding their way through there. So when you see these kind of target dates, actually all this stuff is going to be going on at the same time. People will be moving and shifting around throughout the construction process. So.
Correct.
Good evening, board members. Kellen Seitz, Spectre Venue Management, the Kansas Expo Center. I can figure out how to, there we go. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is how does the renovation impact our operation? What does this mean for us? What can we do? How does this impact our residents? And early on in the process, when we came into the renovation project, our focus was patron experience. When you go to the Expo Center, you are going for an experience, whether it's a high school graduation, a Valentine's night out for a Cirque du Soleil show, taking your kids to watch Globetrotters, basketball games, high school sports, whatever it might be, you're going for an experience. So we really wanted to focus on how the impacts of the renovation increase the patron experience at the Expo Center. The second focus was revenue driving. How do we increase the revenue potential, whether it be by increasing the number of events the revenue generated from those events, and/or partnership and sponsorship sales opportunities within the facility. And just to kind of tease that a little bit, I'm going to talk about a presentation that I'll be giving tomorrow at the Board of County Commissioners meeting tomorrow morning, and I encourage you, if it interests you, to stop by tomorrow morning. In 2017, the budget for the Kansas Expo Center, the budget allocation from the Shawnee County taxpayers was in excess of $1.44 million. In our very first year of operation, we guaranteed the county an operating subsidy budget of $780,000. If you can do rough math real quickly, that's about half. How are we able to do that? We've really refined the way that we book and surround our contracting process around these events. We've really refined the way of how we engage with our community partners, whether that be through partnership and sponsorship activation within the facility. And probably one of the key focuses that we were tasked with coming into the facility and into market was our marketing and sales efforts on how do we drive more traffic, create more brand awareness around the events, and generate more public participation in those events, whether it be through tenant games, events, those types of things. I'm happy to report we've surpassed our budget number for this year. We beat that by about $72,000. So we came in our first 16 months and have saved an actual realized cost to Shawnee County taxpayers in excess of $750,000. That's real money that Shawnee County taxpayers have been paying out to operate this facility in the past. So our focus on the renovation project is how do we do that, and how do we continue to do that, and how do we make it better in the future. So a lot of what we're talking about today and what we're talking about in the renovation is we know that we're going to have the opportunity and the potential to meet those same goals and expectations throughout the renovation process. But what we're doing now, we're seeing the impacts of before that's even started. So that's something we're really excited for. We're really proud of. We've been able to get some very high-profile and prestige type events here in Topeka. It's not every market that we can secure things like Cirque du Soleil for 2 years in a row. It's not every year that we can get things like Disney on Ice that generate large sums of revenue to help reduce that operating deficit to the facility. Once the facility is completed, CSNL's early projections, which is the third-party economic feasibility consultant that was hired by Populous and HCK prior to the renovation process starting, their projections are over $20 million in annual direct spending by attendees, increasing of nearly $500,000 in annual sales tax collections due to some of those events. So that's based on the figures that they had at the time. That's not based on the figures that we've been able to produce in our first 16 months. So I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can continue to blow those numbers out of the water, and we're getting excited. One thing that has been, I think, on everybody's mind is how does the renovation impact events? How does in the operation of those events during the construction timelines and phases? We at Spectra have had intimate communication and operation with McCown Gordon over a number of projects. They produced and designed the renovation at our Salina, formerly Bicentennial Center building, now Tony's Pizza Event Center, I believe is the correct name. And over that time, they didn't lose a single event. The events weren't impacted, and we remain to have that same type of expectation to our event producers and promoters that continue to bring events into our facility. So it's something that we're looking forward to. We hope the community's looking forward to it. A lot more exciting information and events to come. There's a lot that haven't been announced yet, so stay tuned and keep your eyes and ears open. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, by the way.
Any questions for the Expo Center team? Councilman Cohen.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I don't know if you guys know, but I've been on the Expo Center board, I think, for about 3 years. And when I started there, it wasn't looking good. Their reports each month, it was just bad news after bad news, and I really think that Spectre has really turned this around, and that was a very wise choice to switch them out. And we're really excited, the board. Thank you, Mayor, for appointing me again for another year. It's going to be great being on there and seeing all the new changes happen, especially when we break ground. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your report. Great job. Thank you. At this point in time, we move on to the public comments. We have 2 individuals signed up to speak. The first individual being Dan Faulds.
I'll pass.
Thank you very much. The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Carol Marple.
Thank you very much. I was going to pass, but then I thought, what the heck? I'll come up here and say what I always say every time I come. I want to compliment Matt, and there is a great group of people that works at Go Topeka. They've been very nice to me. They've answered my questions when I ask them, and I greatly appreciate that. Same old comment I'm up here making, though. You know, I would really like to see some names with the numbers. I don't need to see 400 names, but 4 would be nice. I would like to see the people that they are dealing with within our community, not just a number. I also want to make the comment, I attended my first Momentum 2022 meeting. It's a good meeting, met a lot of nice people there also. One of the ladies' comments, though, they were looking at the quality of place recipients, the 4 of them, and she said, "Why is Auburn included in this?" I said, well, people in the county pay the sales tax, you know? And if you think about it, what you heard up here tonight, I think I heard county mentioned maybe 4 or 5 times. We do pay the sales tax, and we would like to be included. We talked about Topeka youth. What about county youth? You know, we're out there too. Some of the discussion is that the small towns get sales tax. Yes, they do. But as I said before, I don't live in the small towns, but I associate myself as a resident to them because they are closer than Topeka. We want to be included. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. The next item in the agenda is reminders. If the clerk would read the dates of the future meetings.
Wednesday, May 8th, 2019, Wednesday, September 11th, 2019, and Wednesday, December 11th, 2019.
Again, to all the members, I thank you for your participation in the meeting. For the council members that were not able to be here, and for the non-voting members especially, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to everybody participating in these meetings. You have your dates here in front of you. And if there's no other items for the good of the order, we are adjourned.